Today we're doing an entirely new format that doesn't really have a name yet. I've been thinking about like Twitter Tuesday, today on Twitter or something, but nothing really fits yet because it's not Tuesday. And today on Twitter, I don't know. Anyways, the format is going to be looking at some things that I've seen on Twitter today that I found interesting, that I want to discuss, that I want to go more in depth on, or that I just want to laugh about and share that with you. Before we get into that, a quick thank you for all the positive words yesterday. You guys were very supportive and you had some great ideas as well. So thank you very much for that, and I will try to put some of that into place. And to clear up a quick confusion, misunderstanding, I am not planning to take an extended break right now. Maybe in the future, but as of now, I'm just trying to change up my content and ease things up a little bit by not necessarily uploading every day. But I'm not planning to go on a longer break right now. Wouldn't be the smartest move anyways, because the new Smite season is about to be announced. But let's start with today's topic. So we have 3 different tweets, topics, whatever, that I want to look at, that I want to show you. And then we'll dig a little bit deeper on that. The first one is from Asus, which probably a few of you know as a computer company in general. And they released a 360 hertz monitor. And I wanted to read the article that comes with that, because I think this is very entertaining in a way that they are maybe not even quite aware of. The Republic of Gamers Swift, so Rock Swift or whatever, 360 Hz is the world's fastest esports gaming monitor. Kind of funny note on the side, by the way. Most gaming monitors are not really that different from normal monitors. Don't necessarily buy something just because it's called a gaming monitor. The reaction times are often very, very similar, and often the gaming option is not necessarily the best one unless you're going very, very high tier. To help the most elite gamers in the world, only the most elite gamers by this, take advantage of the incredible frame rates available from today's highest end gaming PCs. Nvidia and ROG are developing the world's first 360 Hz esports display technology. All this buzzwords, gaming, esports, elite, lovely. Which is previewed at CES 2020. The first monitor to use this technology is called the ROG Swift 360 Hz, and its unparalleled refresh rate is right there in the name. Well, really. Why push refresh rates all the way to 360? It shouldn't be news to anybody, but esports competition have well and truly become elite athletic events. True in a way, though I think a lot of people would still scoff at that one. Millions of fans tune in to watch professionals duke it out for prize pools that can total tens of millions of dollars. Money, money, money. Victory and defeat can hinge on mere milliseconds. With so much on the line, professional competitors need every edge they can get to take home the gold. Now we have a lovely monitor. Looks kind of weird, to be honest. I don't know how this stand is supposed to be like the final result, but hey, oh well. One of those edges comes from gaming monitors with high refresh rates. If you look at the latest graphics cards benchmarks, it's not elitist to note that modern gaming PCs are ready to deliver frame rate well above what a standard 60 Hz monitor can show. Well, I guess it's not elitist to say that unless you're playing Smite, because then you're kind of stuck on 60 Hz anyways. But, well, aside of the fact that even today some games are actually still capped at 60 Hz, yes, you get well above 60 Hz. You get 120 Hz on a lot of good PCs. Let's put it that way, okay? You don't get 360 on most of them. Indeed, the highest end gaming PCs can pump out many hundred of frames per second in the white-hot competitive titles that make or break today's professional gaming careers. You don't have to take our word for it either. No, of course not. Don't take their word. We're gonna have some external sources here. Our recent testing of games like Counter-Strike Global Offense and Overwatch proved that not even 240 Hz monitors are fast enough to display every frame on offer from those titles using the latest and greatest hardware. So hang on a second here. We don't have to take their word for it, but we rely on their research, their testing, which is not their word, And also, we don't have to take their word for it because they've done research, but they're not linking us the research results or providing us with any kind of actual research source. But we don't have to take their word for it, guys. Monitor technology needs to keep up with future advances in gaming performance. That's why we built the world's first 300 Hz gaming laptop, and it's why we raised the bar even further with a rock swift 360 Hz. Isn't that lovely? And then we have a lot of blah about how fast it is, blah, 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 blah. If you, in the blink of an eye, refreshes an incredible 54 times. And my favorite part is, compared to the widely available 240 Hz gaming monitors, the ROG 360 can draw a whooping 50% more frames every second. So essentially what they're telling you is that 360 is 50% more or 150% off 240. Thanks for teaching us basic math. I would not have been able to figure that out. I would not have been able to figure out that the half of 240 is 120 and 240 plus 120 is, oh my God. Deep math here. Really appealing to the most intelligent, hardcore, elite gamer audience right there. And then they're just blabbering on about the stats and everything. It's just the best. Now, there is, of course, a market for this. There's a market for everything, otherwise it wouldn't be there, among very rich people that think that for some reason with their high-end rig, they now also need this monitor. But I want to show you something. I want to show you something very interesting. There is a video that came out a month ago from Linus Tech Tips, which is called Does High FPS Make You a Better Gamer? Featuring Shroud, Final Answer. Very interesting video. I highly recommend watching it if you have the time. It's relatively long, but he goes into a lot of different tests, a lot of depth with this topic, and they're doing a lot of different tests that measure different aspects as well. So here we see the results of one of these tests. This is the double doors test, where they just have to like quickly snipe a target between the doors. I think in Counter-Strike it was. And here you can see the differences in hits that they get on the targets. With Linus and the one on the right side that you can't really see here, Paul, being the ones that don't regularly game to the same extent as the others, and Shroud, Corey, and Grims all being, well, I'm not sure if they're pro players at this point. I think Corey is a pro player, Shroud is pro player / streamer, and Grims is primarily streamer that are also very good at gaming or whatever. Not entirely sure what the section is, but what you can see here is that we see a very drastic improvement in performance for all of them basically when it comes to 60 FPS to 144 FPS, which is very interesting. That's just because you just have a better time reacting when the thing comes in the frame a little bit earlier, I would say, and it's a bit clearer where exactly it is due to the higher frame rate. And what we also see is that for lower skilled gamers, the increase to 240 FPS actually makes a significant difference, being Linus here and Paul here. But what we also see is that for Shroud, Corey, and Grims, there is hardly any difference at this point. The big difference is from 60 to 144. But to 240, it's barely different at all. And there's another test a little bit later, the flick aim test. Paul here on the side again. And we see a very similar picture. We see that Linus improves a little bit more with 240, with Shroud even goes down a little bit, but that's just inconsistent in testing. And Corey stays pretty much the same, and Grims goes down a little bit as well. Mainly because these players are also used to 144 Hz monitors, meaning most pro players don't even necessarily play on 240 FPS or Hertz just yet. And then the last test, flow state test, also once again shows this relatively well, that we just see differences to some degree, but only here with Mr. Grims can we really see a difference to 240. And what we can conclude from this is that the improvement is way more significant from 60 FPS to 144 than it is to 240. And adding up another 50% on top of that is very unlikely to give you major improvements like they present it would. And instead, at that point, what you would be looking towards. If you're really running a high-end rig where everything is supposed to look as good as possible, it's just higher visual quality in other ways. There's higher resolutions and everything, more like color depth and all those aspects. And even those can help in games as well. You know, like a stronger contrast that makes enemies more clear should definitely give you more of an improvement here. And, well, this thing comes with a 24.5 inch size, so I'd rather invest into a slightly bigger monitor and then, like, again, high resolution along with that. It doesn't actually say the resolution here, I think, which is also a bit odd. But very much not focused on increasing the heart rate to a rate that most games will not reasonably even be able to achieve unless you go super, super, super high in graphics settings. So that very much entertained me that this product is now out, and I'm sure a lot of people will actually consider buying this that just have a lot of money without it reflecting what the purpose of this would be. Another thing that entertained me was Dan Wooten. Wooton, I don't know. Wooton. So what type of person is Dan? Dan is the type of person who takes his profile picture with a cutout background and puts that same profile picture in his banner with a different cutout background. And then layers it on top of each other, as it is on Twitter, with the different colors. That's how much he loves himself. He wants to see his face everywhere. That's the type of person Dan is, and that's what we need to understand first. So Dan is somebody who loves himself and, of course, wants to take care of his own body. And Dan is angry. Dan is angry because of the Golden Globe Awards. This is the plant-based meal being given to all guests at the Golden Globe Awards this year. No option with meat at all. No choice. Welcome to Hollywood in 2020, where vegan extremists rule. Now I've got to say, he is maybe not entirely wrong about this being a bit of virtue signaling from Hollywood, but that's not actually what he's saying, though, is it? He's saying that vegan extremists rule. He's not saying this is virtue signaling, which would be a good point. You know, it's like, oh, you guys do so much stuff that is not very pro anything, really, except pro your own wallet. Why focus on this one thing? But no, he is upset about this. And first of all, I gotta say, I'm neither vegetarian nor vegan. I can go into my meal preferences in another video, but I just try to focus on living healthy within boundaries that are easily manageable. But I would not be mad if anyone served me that, because that looks absolutely fantastic. That looks like, you know, very high-tier cuisine, which I don't get to eat all that often because I'm not rich. And I was like, okay, he goes there and he gets a free meal. So what is he so angry about? Why is he really complaining about that so much? Now, one thing that I want to say about that before is, I guess in a way this was done by vegan extremists, because I found out that apparently one of the main people about this, behind this, is Joaquin Phoenix, who played the Joker recently. Most of you, I think, liked that movie, so that he's got that going for himself. But he was apparently one of those who was talking to the people organizing the event and saying, would it be possible to do a vegan meal, a vegan menu, in order to, you know, signal that times are changing and help climate change just a little bit. And he addressed that in his speech as well. So you can think of that what you want, you know, that's up to the individual. But I thought it was interesting that Dan was so angry about this. Turns out, Dan did not go to the Golden Globe Awards. And somebody else called him out for that. It's that news. A man who wasn't invited to the Golden Globes is unhappy about the meal at the Golden Globes. Dan was tweeting about the Golden Globes from the comfort of his own home, far, far away from the Golden Globes. So he was proxy upset about the food that he would have had to eat if he went to the Golden Globes that he wasn't invited to. That's all I will say on this. That is Twitter for you guys. And then, last but not least, we have Big Think. Big Think is thinking real big. Your Netflix binge watching makes climate change worse, say experts. The emissions generated by watching 30 minutes of Netflix is the same as driving almost 4 miles. That's a bold statement. We have an article for that from Big Think. I had to click on their website. I regret. Anyways, we don't need to read the entire article. The claim here is that it's basically you could drive 4 miles or you could watch half an hour of Netflix and it would end up being the same. They make this argument that you could drive, get your VHS somewhere. I'm okay. But the point that they're making is that they put apparently in the title, in the article, even though they say something about scientists, blah, blah, blah. Watching a half-hour show would cause emissions equivalent to 1.6 kilograms of carbon dioxide. Sounds weird, right? Sounds strange that, just watching on your little device there would be as much as driving a car, which is a huge machinery that, uses fuel, burns things and all that. Well, maybe it sounds weird because it is. And maybe that's the purpose of this entire article, to just mislead you, to like rile people up against each other, have a discussion about this, like tell you later on, you're not doing anything about climate change because you're watching Netflix. Guys, go watch Netflix if you want, or any other platform for that matter. Netflix has, this is a Medium blog, okay? You have to keep this in mind. Medium is not necessarily a reliable source because Medium can be written by anyone. That's a bit of a problem that should be worth noting in general. So sometimes you will find things on Medium that are just wrong. But in this case, the Medium itself is written by the Netflix tech blog, which means it's essentially written by Netflix itself, I am assuming. And let's scroll down again. They did a comparison in 2014. We can assume that the numbers have maybe changed slightly, but they wouldn't change that drastically. In 2014, Netflix infrastructure generated only 0.5 grams of CO2 emissions for each hour of streaming. The average human breathing emits about 40 grams an hour, nearly 100 times as much. Now, they can't go like completely off with this, I would say, because at the end of the day, I think if Netflix was completely lying about this, people, scientists especially, would call them out. So there's a good chance that this estimation is approximately correct at least. Notice the difference here? 1.6 kilograms for half an hour, 0.5 grams for an hour. How is that possible? The only logical conclusion that I would come to, aside of assuming that Netflix is lying their heads off, which again is very unlikely because people would figure that out and would call them out, is that they made a mistake, not thinking so big, by misreading the numbers and reading something as kilograms instead of grams. And it would maybe be like driving a few meters with a car in comparison. Rolling down the block a little bit and then stopping again because you can't go too far. That's all I'll say on this, Don't feel bad watching Netflix. You can watch The Witcher. It's no problem. It's a good show. I will talk about it in the future. And and don't believe everything Big Thing puts on the internet. Those are the tweets of today. The stuff that I indulged in today. The stuff that entertained me to some degree and that I felt was worth talking about and putting some information behind. Let me know if you enjoyed this format, if you want to see more of this in the future. And if you're new to the channel, feel free to click the sub button and ring the bell. It really helps me out. And other than that, see you for the next one within the next days. DukeSloth out.